Welcome back. I'm Adrienne, your expert on all things custom home building and luxury. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend how much fun we have on the Frazier Homes channel. So today we are talking about, again, selections. Yes, you remember we had many episodes with Sammy and we were talking about selections. We were talking about the number of selections that we have typically throughout one of our design builds. We were talking about the different types of selections, the different products, but we did not talk about why the selection process is adopted here at Frazier Homes and why it's so important. So today we're going to talk about a few phases of the selection process, and we're going to talk about why it's so important. So our standard operating procedure is before we dig, we'd like to have all of the exterior selections selected or chosen before we dig. And so what does that mean? Exterior selections will be your brick and your stone. It will be your windows. It will be your front door, your roof materials, your exterior lighting, your garage doors. All of those selection choices need to be made prior to the dig. That is our standard operating procedure. And so you will ask, why is it so important? Well, if you remember many moons ago, we talked about the number one builder, or the number one responsibility of the builder is to make sure that we're managing water. As your number one builder, Frazier Homes, that is our main priority. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that the home is weathered in. So that means once we get the foundation up and we get framing up, we want to make sure that your house is dried in. That can't happen if we don't know what the selections are for your garage. That can't happen if we don't know about the windows. All of those things have to be done prior. And so when you enter into the Frazier Homes process, as part of the schematic and design phase, we are hoping that we can have you make those very critical selections before we dig. And remember, we have an interdisciplinary team. So you'll have your selections coordinator, you will have your designer, you'll have your architect, all of these folks, including your builder, Frazier Homes, you will have everyone involved in the process during the schematic phase. And so if we can get those selection choices made, you know what happens. That means that we are taking care of the triple constraint and we are blowing through the time. We are going to get back some of the time, because the schematic phase can take 6+ months just nailing it down. So at that time, you might be feeling a little fatigue. We want to get your energy levels back up. And the way to do that is to make sure that you're making the selections. The next thing is the interior selections. Now, we want to have interior selections before framing. You've heard me say many times, but I think it's important that we reiterate how the selection choices you make have a direct impact to how things are framed. So let's go back to the exterior selections for a second. Well, the exterior selection may be your front door. Well, we might need to know, and we do need to know, what the rough framing is and the rough opening is for your door. We need to know what that rough opening is for your windows. And so you can see the correlation of how all of these selections, while they may just be aesthetically pleasing, we need to make sure that they actually in line in terms of the overall construct. We are trying to manage water, we're trying to manage time, we're trying to manage scope, and we're trying to manage budget. So again, we fast track. And I know that sometimes that can be a little prickly for some of our designers because they like to be able to look at the product and visualize it before they make decisions. But our most successful partnerships with designers have been ones that have schematics. They can put together a mood board. They are very skilled at reading the drawings. They have architectural backgrounds. And when you have that level of understanding, you understand understand how every piece of the process is definitely very critical, and it goes into our process capability. We will link that below, the process capability video, where we talk about how we want to make sure our process is capable. If we're not making selections in time, then the process is not capable of achieving the demand or the desired outcome. And so those are the two phases that we'll talk about today. Next time, we'll talk about phase 3 of the selection process and why we go about doing that. And so if your builder, a fully custom home builder, is not telling you about selections and why it's so important that we get those taken care of in a particular sequence, it may mean they don't know the difference.